So the next 45 minutes, I'll try to basically talk a little bit about modern CISO and how that plays into the technology space. Now, I know that everybody here is coming from a hacker perspective. I'm going to be talking about the defense side. Me and Karsten have basically sandwiched this entire conference between two speaks. I'm talking about the modern CISO. He will be talking about the modern hacker. So stay here for tomorrow afternoon, and you will hear his closing keynote as well. And I think there will be synergies between the two stories. So let me start a little bit with the background of myself. So I was 4-year-old when my dad decided that we needed a computer in the house. He was a teacher. He bought a VIC-20. Soon that became a Commodore 64. And then after that, an Amiga 500. As you can imagine, you're a small kid. You want to play games. Games cost a lot of money. You don't have a lot of money. So you start cracking software. So in my early days, I was part of all kind of local software cracking groups, mainly. We shared buying kits, right? So I buy a game and then we make a backup for offline storage at my friends, and they did the same, and then we started playing around that way. So in that point in time, this was all a bit gray legally. Most of it was actually not even illegal, but still it was in that space where slowly that grew into more than just software cracking. Because we had where's BBSs. We didn't have internet yet, so we had to dial in. And that gets expensive. So what we started doing is, how can we make it cheaper to dial into these where's BBSs? I have to upload software because otherwise I can't download games. So how do I make that cheaper? Phreaking came into play. We found out that the PABXs in Denmark were not as secure, and that you could easily manipulate them to basically have free dialing. Poor camping site owners in Denmark, I think they ended up paying my bills, but okay, that is one side of the story. This period in time, viruses started coming out, but all of them were actually nothing like what we have now. You had boot sector viruses on illegal software that kind of like crapped your computer out. You had to reinstall things. Nothing too major. I think the biggest thing that happened in the early 80s was the Morris virus, which basically infected 10% of the internet, 6,000 computers. This was one guy deciding that he wanted to map out the internet. And instead of mapping out the internet, he basically broke all kinds of systems. He got prosecuted. He got a pretty hard slap on the wrist. But as you can see, his original floppy is still in a museum. So this is, I think, the first internet worm ever. In the Netherlands, we had this radio program. So I'm from the Netherlands from origin. I think there's one or two others here. We had a radio company of our radio program called Hobbyscope. What they did at the end of every program was air machine code through the air that you could copy on a tape, and then you could spin it out, right? So that was, I think, almost everybody in the Netherlands listened to that program. And we learned a lot of things from it. And then, of course, you had later on the Hectic magazine. I'll get back to Hectic a little bit later. That's where we got all the phone phreaking stuff. So, moving to the 90s. Internet came. In the Netherlands, we actually had free internet in 1994 through what they call the digital city. Basically, everybody could dive into it. It was more like a MUD, to be fairly honest. If people know MUDs from a long, long time ago, multi-user dungeons. More like a kind of gamey situation, but it was real internet. A lot of these kind of things, a lot of people were on it because it was fun. A lot of students were on it. So what happened there, the first social engineering attacks, because the websites and the BBSs got a bit expensive, right? So we had students that were bragging, I've got better internet than you guys with this. So we social engineered ourselves into university accounts, so we could then run websites that are a bit faster than dial-in and a bit cheaper for us to use. So, as you can see, the Smurf here, Smurf attacks became quite popular. It was easy to do DDoSes in that time. So if you were on BBSs or on IRC, you pissed somebody off, suddenly your internet went down, you already know that somebody was doing a Smurf attack on you. So it started to become a little bit more hostile in that period of time, right? So this was in the 90s, first proper viruses. Melissa virus here, but we had I love you coming later, email viruses and stuff like that. Then I went to university. I studied medical biology, and I was more interested with games. Marathon was our favorite game. We had a Unix environment with Mac frontends, so we were playing this game continuously and continuously. Sysadmin was not happy, thought it was a bit noisy. We were playing this from the morning until the afternoon, right? So anybody in the lab, the AI students, because we had AI students in that same lab, started complaining. So they put it behind a cron job. So the guy was like, well, if you like playing your games, maybe you should learn some Unix, right? That was the last time he advised that, because we started playing around, we started figuring out some things, and we basically rooted the university just to make illegal copies of this game so we could play it whenever we wanted, right? This kind of got me more and more into that cybersecurity space. I started to get more and more interested in cybersecurity, less so in medical biology. So in medical biology, I was doing forensics, I was doing pathology. So I decided maybe I should move from autopsies to autopsy, right? So I had friends that worked in Access for All, which was the first internet provider in the Netherlands that actually came out of HITB. I knew these guys because we all went to the same pubs, same bars, same nightlife. So we were actually all friends. They figured out I didn't want to be in the university anymore, so they offered me a job to start an Access for All. And quite honestly, early on, I started working in the abuse line, right? So we had a phone number, part of the help desk, that people would call, I got hacked, or if they say, we hacked you, now give me my 1 year free internet, and we had to figure out what actually happened. This is all before actually autopsy did exist. This was basically just here for the joke. There was no syslog ng yet, so this was really porting all your logs into a web server, making a grep script with bash, and then grabbing through your stuff. Quite painful, but still quite interesting. So I stayed there for a couple of years. And then the 2000 came in, right? All these regulations came in. We had NIMDA, the big virus. And basically, I think, if I would say which big event really changed the corporate space, I think NIMDA was one of the main cases here. I was at that time at a big bank, and the bank went down for 2 days because they couldn't figure out how systems got reinfected. This was really one of the first times a worm really took out major companies. As I said, 6,000 hosts went down with the humorous virus. 600,000 hosts went down with NIMDA, and that's only what is known. I can tell you all of the bank that I worked for went down for 2 days. This was the time where the suit came in. We all know people become managers if they don't understand technology anymore. Not completely true. I'm hoping to dispel that story. But here, first cybersecurity people in suits started to show up. And there we have me wearing a suit. So currently, as was mentioned, I'm an advisor to the Secretary General here of the National Cybersecurity Agency in Thailand. But my actual day job is I'm the CISO of AIS. AIS is the largest telco here in Thailand. We have 45 million mobile subscribers and about 11 million fixed broadband subscribers. After I did all my tech stuff, I had a lot of very corporate jobs. Head of IT, head of risk management, director in big four companies, all these kind of things. So one of the main things that I want to talk about here today is being a CISO. How has that changed throughout the years? How has my journey from being an attacker to being a defender changed how I perceive the defense space? And where do we have a lot of issues coming out of that new paradigm that we need to get through? So, the evolving role of a CISO. We're trying to manage the world while the world is burning. I think that this is a very gripping picture. Main challenges that we are facing is really, you are a C. Actually, you're not. Chief would mean you report to the CEO. None of us actually do report to the CIO. We are still further down in the organization, but it basically means we are the lead person when it comes to cybersecurity. Everybody has questions. The main problem is you work with C-level people and they typically do not understand technology. So that is where we need to start working more. They think we do IT security. Firewalls, right? Antivirus. To be fairly honest, I don't manage firewalls. They're with my IT ops. I don't install the antivirus. That's with my desktop operations team. So IT security is what they think. That's not really where we're at. Some have heard cyber and they're like, oh yeah, the buzzword cyber. So you're responsible for cybersecurity. What is cybersecurity? It's just a buzzword, right? It's nothing else as IT security, maybe a little bit focused on the outside, but for cybersecurity, everybody thinks criminal activity. We're called CISO, Chief Information Security Officer. That's a bigger thing. That also means physical security. It also means actual data. One of the things that was really interesting in the last couple of months, CrowdStrike happened. Is that a cyber incident? Everybody's, no, that's not a cyber incident. They didn't get hacked. I'm like, okay. So why are you asking me to explain to you, board in this case, what happened there? Why didn't you talk with our VCP team? No. You are more technical. Okay, fine. So I said, I think this actually is a information security incident. They're like, no, it's not. It's not an incident. They didn't get hacked, right? And I was just reminding them, you remember the basics of information security. CIA. Availability is there. Wasn't this an availability event? And does that not make it an information security accident? It took a long time for people to really start realizing that. Because actually, they think you're the techie. You're not doing this like, maybe I should. So when I'm looking at that entire space, IT security sits here. They think we do cybersecurity. But a CISO should be sitting there. It is information security, cybersecurity, geopolitics, risk management, enterprise risk management, business continuity planning, disaster recovery. A lot of companies don't really see it that way yet. And I think that's where some of the challenges come from. So maybe it is time to change the title a little bit. Some companies are moving to Chief Technology Risk Officer. You see that especially in the banking space, because most banking regulations have moved away from cybersecurity policies into resiliency policies or technology risk management policies. Another term that you see appearing more, DRRO, Digital Risk and Resilience Officers. Main thing with these types of titles, it is a title, it doesn't change anything. But the main problem is, you talk with senior management, they don't understand any of this. Titles make a difference. Removing the chief part might actually be good, because a lot of these chiefs feel very much infringed upon if this techie shows up and says, I'm a chief. They're like, you don't have an MBA, how can you be a chief? So, how do we hack management? I think one of the main challenges here remains, as I mentioned, these guys do not understand tech. Even the CIO typically is more of an architect. He's less of an actual techie. So how do you start communicating these things? How do you explain what the difference is from a breach and an incident? We report incidents from the moment that somebody clicked on a link and had malware. For us, that is an incident, right? If they see we had 20 incidents in the last 2 months, they freak out. So how do you explain that to them, right? So I always use this analogy. If you have an office building, you have your lobby. Your lobby officially is restricted access. However, everybody can walk in. And if you've got a drunk person there that's shouting out, it's annoying, you send your security, you throw them out. That's an initial breach. It's the same thing. It's trespassing. It's being annoying, not supposed to be there. You fix it. You typically do that before he jumps the turnstiles. That will be a lateral move. What happens after that? They get access to the elevator. Then they walk into your finance department. And they start getting some documents, take pictures, email it out. That's a covert channel exfiltration. So with using those kind of analogies, you're getting business to understand what actually is going on without them actually really understanding the details of this kind of thing. I think using analogies, using examples is really very important. Try to dumb it down. We all know lateral move is more complicated than jumping a turnstile. But for them, this is what they need to know. This is what makes it tick for them. With that type of communication, it helps you to get a budget. You don't want to start getting money after a breach. Typically, if you have a big breach, you're out of a job as a CISO. So you don't want that. You want to get your money before something happens. Of course, you can leverage breaches that happen with other people, but that's just me, right? So don't try to do that. I don't like FUD. Fear inside, out. It's not a good way of actually managing budgets. You need to start talking with the business, trying to explain to them what actually is at risk. They want ROI. Honestly, there is no ROI on site. It's typically cost without a proven return on investment. So in risk management, there's a term called value at risk. I think that is the type of communication that you need to be using. What is the business value? Typically, if you go to a senior manager and he says, Why do I need to invest in this? And you ask them, what is the revenue that you generate with this service? They typically can't even tell that. So then you're like, how can I tell you how to protect your value at risk? So with these kind of discussions, you actually get a more grown-up discussion about security investments. To get money, you need to have a plan. Cyber is an iterative process. So I would typically say make a 3 to 5 year plan that you change every year. Be realistic. Your team is small. Typically, if you're in the defense side, maybe you have 40 people. I've got about 50 people and 22,000 employees. So the team is small. You can't do it all. Be realistic. Make sure you can deliver. That will drive your budgets down because you have less initiatives. Other thing, there's a lot of quick wins. There's a lot of easy, low-hanging fruit. Patching, hygiene, reducing your attack surface, turn off servers you're no longer using. Things like that typically don't cost money. It actually saves money, and it makes you more secure. I mean, I think we all know the situations where a server was decommissioned. They take it out of the CMDB. They forget to turn off the server. They forget to decommission the server, but it's on paper decommissioned. That server is no longer known. It's removed out of your stock. It's removed out of your patch cycle. And suddenly you see weird lateral moves happening in your environment, and you find out that server 5 years ago was not turned off. Still running. Still has firewall rules accepting anything from the internet company. These kind of things save money, gives you more credibility. And then if you ask for money, you typically get that money. Defending the fort. Most companies are in firefighting mode. When I was younger, ITIL was the buzz. Everybody did ITIL. ITSM, IT Service Management. Every ops team was doing IT Service Management. It was a CMDB, not always good, but it was there. They had processes for change management. They were managing configuration management proper. Nowadays, typically not so much anymore. A lot of people forgot about the ITIL part. They just think we need to go quicker. Put things out there. Forget about them the moment they're there, because we don't hand it over to ops, and we're going to develop the next product. Firefighting mode is one of the main challenges that I'm seeing in a lot of organizations, and that's what is struggling. That basically means basic hygiene is not there. Standards not consistently applied. Typically, my first thing what I do in an organization, I become friends with the head of IT Ops. He has so many problems that if we fix his problems, the majority of my problems are fixed. So I think if you're in cybersecurity on the defense side, learning basic IT governance and IT service management is going to be helping you out. Not necessarily because it's your responsibility, but you make other people fix your problem. And by that, making them fix their problems. Focus on the basics. How do we operate IT? Not necessarily anything to do with cyber. How do we operate IT? You can't protect what you can't see. Sounds very simple, but for any person here working in an organization, what is your penetration of systems that actually are logging to your SOC? If it's more than 70%, I'm very, very happy for you. I doubt it, to be very honest. Most of the logs you're getting are only infrastructure logs, maybe some system logs. But what you need to be looking at are actually application logs, because that's where activity happens that you actually want to see. Without that, you are just basically only reporting on system has been compromised, but you don't see money has left the organization. So what's very important for this is make sure you know every single asset in your network. Automated asset discovery, run Nmap on an ongoing basis if you want to do it cheap. Get a proper CMDB that has auto discovery if you have more money. This is where a lot of your investment needs to be coming. Good thing is, that's not a cybersecurity investment. You tell your IT ops teams that they need this. They pay for it, you reap the benefits. You will need to get everything logged into your log analysis tools now. And I think a lot of our tools are not really up for the job when it comes to these large volumes of data. So that's a bit of a challenge that we need to address with the vendors in the market. Attackers are getting an easier job. We are continuously increasing our attack surface. Websites go live, campaign stops, website still remains up and running, nobody checks it. 10 years later, the same website is still there with all the vulnerabilities you can think. the moment we start growing more and more of this attack surface, entry points get a lot more. This is a big challenge in a lot of organizations because even a lot of marketing teams open websites on third-party hosters, things that you might never even find. But still, data is there, potential customer data, and it can leak. Other problem in this is that we're creating more and more complexity. So our IT environments are getting very, very complex, difficult to manage, and most people actually don't understand what's going on anymore. Looking at IT or AI at this point in time, a lot of people using GitHub, Copilot for GitHub, running their code through it, put it in production, oftentimes forget to actually go through the proper scanning means because it needs to go fast, right? I need to do 5 releases per day. Can't wait on the pen test, go live. These kind of things add to the problem. The visibility part is no longer there. Attackers are getting an easier job finding entry points. And they are also employing AI, of course, all kinds of ways to fuss and get in there a lot quicker. Attack surface monitoring. I'm not talking about the tools themselves, but scan your IP range, scan your URL range, know what's happening on your domain. Talk with your teams to make sure that the net tables are accessible to you as a security team. Often that doesn't really happen. You know your external IP address that has a vulnerability. You spend 2 weeks finding out who owns that website. In the meantime, people walk all through your network, right? So it's very important, and make sure that anything that is no longer valid is gone. Turn it off, take it offline, save some energy, turn off the web server, things like that. This is another big issue that I think especially in the pen testing space you run into. Why didn't they patch this system? My environment, we've got 30,000 servers. If I tell my ops team to patch every time a patch comes out, they're going to basically stop talking to me. Doesn't work. There's too many patches coming out. I'm already happy if they can patch something within 60 days. Sometimes it's even 90 days. Attackers try to hack you the moment the CVE is posted. If we don't even talk about 0 days, right? I've seen attacks on WinRAR and vulnerabilities coming out 2 hours after the CVE was posted. There's no way I can upgrade these things. I can't patch these things in time. These are people that are working on the service desk that suddenly get a Facebook message sent to them. Click on it, boom, malware activates. You can't patch during a workday, right? So patching is not necessarily going to help you here. What you need to be knowing is how do we prioritize patching? So tools are getting more and more now that are looking at exposure management. Trying to find out what is my actual exposure? Where are my lateral move potentials? How do I prioritize? If you see a system that has the potential that if it gets compromised, from there people could hop to other systems. The intermediate systems that facilitate the lateral move, those should be patched with priority. Anything on the outside should be patched with priority. Anything in the back end, just regular upgrade cycles once every 6 months could be okay. Those kind of prioritizations keeps you on top of things because nobody can patch 1 million patches per month, right? It's just not a valid option. Getting back all the way to the beginning, this all goes back to culture. Culture is more than just awareness training. I think the main problem that we have with awareness training is one size fits all doesn't fit all. You need to really start focusing on target groups and looking at these things. But the main thing is you have to make sure that people understand their responsibility. What we are doing in the organization is making sure that if people don't want to patch something or if they don't want to fix vulnerability, please sign off. Make sure that it's your name. If something happens, you're to blame. Shifting that blame game focuses on responsibilities, making people accountable. Suddenly, if they know, they will get that bonus results or whatever if they didn't fix it. They will start running. That's one part. That's the stick. We've also started looking into IT security champions or business information security officers. People that understand what they are doing day to day. We give them a little bit more attention on what cybersecurity means, so they become the front line of cybersecurity within the IT development teams, IT ops teams, and even in the business. So we have people in the business taking care of what does this new endeavor that we want to go on from a business perspective mean for cybersecurity and potential risk, and they become our point of contact because we can't be anywhere all the time. This kind of stuff always starts, I want to do culture. You have to have accountability for cybersecurity. First thing management says, didn't we hire you for that? Make sure that you don't end up in that situation, because typically you do not manage the patching. You do not manage the firewalls. Don't be responsible for things that you cannot action. Accept the inevitable. This is always one of the hardest discussions with management. When do you think we are 100% secure? These kind of questions senior managers typically ask. It's impossible. That's not the story they want to hear. So that's, again, going back to the story. You'll have a trespasser in your lobby. Do you think that's an incident? Because it is. But maybe it's not as bad. We can take action. You will have to tell them to prepare for an incident. Who are the people that we are including in our incident response team? Marketing should be there. Most people don't think so. But marketing, HR, legal, your PR department, typically overlooked for incident response. Once you start talking about why they need to be there, we need to do communication. We need to do social media monitoring. What's happening there? We need to be able to reach out to individual customers. We need to start preparing press releases. Maybe we didn't report it yet to the regulator. But the moment it goes to the regulator, everybody knows. So we go to the regulator, 5 minutes later, we do a press release. That kind of stuff, if you work that out, you can manage any incident to the point that you most likely don't end up with a big problem. The thing that happened with Optus, we all know Optus, CEO said, there was nothing really serious. And I had to backtrack 3 times. That cost her job. Right messaging is very, very important, and it needs to start from the beginning. Stick to the basics. As I mentioned before, it's very important to realize, where does security start? It is not having the nicest big tool in the world in your place. It can help, especially if you have a very big network. But for most people, it is really hygiene. Consistent application of practices. Antivirus. Buy your licenses. How many times I've seen companies run cracked software that then leads to the problem, oops, I can't install a patch because I don't have MA. These kind of things are basic. Typically, if you reduce your hygiene issues, if you have consistent applied policies all around, you tell people to not release too quick, but go through an assessment. It doesn't have to take long. You can do automated scanning. You can have configuration management tools. That's where tools come in. Make sure that you know what's going into production. You don't get everything, but typically 95% of the problems you can stop with this. The other 5% is only people that most likely will find a way into your network anyway. Talked a lot about risk management and how to manage your management. It's very important that you stay technical. As I said, you need to work with your IT ops team. If you don't understand tech, they don't take you serious. You are running a team with a lot of different disciplines. In cybersecurity, you have red team, blue team, awareness people, compliance people, identity and access management people, and a lot of other people, right? If you can't lead by example, if you don't know what they're talking about, if you can't talk with your forensics team about an investigation they're doing, they don't take you serious. And that means you actually can't execute properly. On the other side, if you're talking with the business, if you're not technical, you don't understand the implications of decisions they are making, you can't make decisions and you can't fix the problem quickly enough. So I think a lot of CISOs have been focusing on, how do I become a tech risk manager? It's fine. Don't forget the tech. But I think that's where a very important part lies in all of this as well. Last point I wanted to make here first, to close up the keynote. Be realistic. I think a lot of people still think patching is easy, but it's not. And I see a couple of people laughing there. I think you have a patch management tool. But patching is not easy. Don't expect your ops team to be able to do that quickly. Also make sure that you understand that business wants to make money. All of your management is there to make money. If you tell people to delay their project by 2 months, it's not going to happen. Figure out a way you can do things proper. make sure that you know what the risks are, find out alternative ways to mitigate. Other things that are really, really important is know what's happening on your network. I think that if you're looking at where should I invest, I wouldn't say buy the new spiffy tool. Invest in visibility. Invest in monitoring, response, and recovery. And to link this back to the end talk of Karsten. Karsten had a short on LinkedIn just the other day. It says, if you're mediocre in 3 aspects, you take care of 90% of your issues. Those aspects are recovery. Exactly. Prevent, detect, recover. Detect and recover is, I think, the main area where I would put my money if I buy tools. Protect is hygiene, is doing the basics. I think with this, I would like to wrap it up, and I have some questions if people want to ask some questions.
Okay, all right. Thank you, Pep, very much for this insightful talk. Do we have any questions from our audience? All right. Okay, thank you.